Okay, so thank you for staying for the last session. I appreciate it. This one is going to be, I want it to be interactive. It's a small enough crowd. This is kind of a personal story for me in many ways, leading the way to business success, because it has been a journey for me, and there has been some ups and downs along the way, and those are the places where I think I can share my story and help you understand not only ConnectWise, but how we've created success at ConnectWise, and I really think it translates to all of you. So I'm going to give you the answer right at the beginning. The answer is seek knowledge. Okay? There are books, lots and lots of knowledge in books, and I read a lot. And my answer is always found in books. And the first book that I read that really got me inspired was back in 2010. And this book I recommend to everyone. It's great by choice. It's by Jim Collins, very famous business author, won many awards. And I read this book, and it's very interesting. It's a story about how to be successful and how it's a choice. And what he goes into in this book is the story of the quest to get to the South Pole. Roald Amundsen, a Norwegian explorer in 1911, decided he was going to go to the South Pole. And Sir Scott, an Englishman, decided he was going to also go. And so it was a race to the South Pole. Who could get to the South Pole first? No one had ever been there. And I'll give you the executive summary of this book. I'm going to give you the executive summary of several books and tell you my story along the way. But the story here was very inspiring because they were racing. No one had been there before. Someone wanted to plant a flag at the South Pole, and it was a race. And so Amundsen decided that he was just going to go good old tried and true methodologies. He used dogs and dog sleds. And Scott had high tech. And he actually created a machine that he thought would get him to the South Pole. And he also went unconventional. He used mules. But the biggest mistake that Scott made, because he did not make it first, in fact, he did not make it back from that expedition. He died along the way, and his entire expedition died with him. The reason he didn't make it is because he made one fatal mistake. This is an interesting one. He relied on unconventional ways of doing things. He was trying to reinvent how to do it. And then the other one was, on a great day, if he had great weather on his journey to the South Pole, he would go 40 miles a day, 60 miles a day if it was a good day. If it was a bad day, he stayed in camp, in his tent. Amundsen, on the other hand, every single day, whether it was good weather or bad, would march 20 miles every day. Good or bad, 20 miles. Every day, good or bad, 20 miles. And that is actually the reason that he made it there first. Now, Scott made it there. He made it there 17 days after Amundsen. And on the way back, their entire journey back, they got about a month into it. It takes about 3 months to get there. They all froze to death. So it's a little bit of a tragic story, but it's a good way to remember the fact that it really does take getting up every morning and doing what you need to do on good days and on bad days. And it's so basic, it's sort of, what's the big deal? It's the basic things that make companies successful. This was the first book that really inspired me to say, all right, you know what? Even when you're afraid, even when things aren't going your way, even when you have no energy to do it, you're going to get up every day and you're going to march 20 miles. And you're going to make this a cultural tenet in your company, and you're going to make sure that everybody goes 20 miles every day. Well, we did that. And here's our current results of the company. And this is the final picture. I'm going to tell you how we got there. I mean, ConnectWise is a very focused company at this point. We were not back in 2010 when I read this book. I was afraid of where the company was headed because we had just brought in a bunch of other companies and we were merging everything together. We had different cultures colliding, and any of you that have been through acquisitions know what I'm talking about. Anyone done an acquisition? Okay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is where the company sits today. It's 100% colleague-owned and founder-owned. There is no venture capital. There is no private equity. In fact, we don't even have bankers. Well, we have bankers. They always want to loan us money because we don't need the money. We have zero debt. 17% of the company is owned by colleagues. In fact, every colleague in this room has, you don't, you just started the other day, but every, but you will. And so ConnectWise is 100% colleague owned, and 100% of colleagues own ConnectWise, as long as they get past their first 90 days. That's not a threat. It's an apology, okay? So we've got some great numbers, but back in 2010, when I read this book, Great by Choice, I decided that I needed to bounce the company. And I used this book, Bounce, to get myself to a place where I knew I could be successful. And what's interesting about this book is it says, look, when everything's going bad around you, all right, take that as an opportunity to catapult your company up and further. So how do you do that? Well, the basic principle of this book is pretty simple. Actually, it's shown right here in this graphic right here. In 2010, we were kind of trying to figure out how we were going to put the company together. We had a lot of different visions running through the company because we had a lot of founders coming together. We needed to sort of centralize everything, but there was not a good strategic plan for doing any of that. We did the best we could, but there wasn't a great strategic plan for doing it. And what happened is the entire company started feeling the anxiety. We started heading downward. The culture started heading downward. The fear started coming in to everyone. And so that anxiety and fear of change just was bringing the company down emotionally. The performance of the company was being challenged because of it. The only thing that actually ever takes you out of a free fall like this is devising a plan, communicating very clearly the plan, and waiting for yourself to hit bottom. If you have a plan, when you hit bottom, you will bounce back up stronger than ever. So I'm giving you the executive summary. It is a pretty interesting book. I would recommend it. But the company was going through a bounce. And there was fear. Fear of change, a lot of anxiety. And so what I decided is that the bottom line is that we needed to face our fears. And that I, in fact, as CEO, needed to face my fears. And my fear was, am I losing control of this company? Do I have the right vision? Are we going to be a long-lasting, enduring company going into the future? And so I don't know if it's this way with any of you, but with me, when I'm afraid of something, or at least back then, I would try to ignore it. I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't talk about it. And I certainly made no plans on how I would fix it. As long as I could avoid it, that's great. That leads to really bad things and really bad results. So I decided the only thing I could do was to face my fear. And so what I decided to do was do something outside of business. I decided I would swim the English Channel. And why did I do that? I did that because I said, that's scary. I don't know how to fix my fear inside the business, but I know if I face my fear outside in some physical event that maybe I'll learn something. And so I decided I would swim the English Channel. And I looked into it and I said, it's only 21.6 miles. I'm a swimmer. And I know if you stay in the water long enough, you're going to get to France, okay? So I immediately started training for the English Channel. I said, all right, this is how I'm going to conquer my fear. At least I'm afraid of doing this. I've always said I was going to do it. Let me see if I can do this. And so in 2012, I had trained for 2 years. I decided I was going to go ahead and swim the channel, signed up, went to Dover, spent a couple weeks, got acclimated to cold. And by the way, your water isn't just cold. Your water is what I call British cold. It's different. It's denser. It's colder. And that's really one of the biggest challenges that you have on the channel. So in 2012, this is actually my route. This is the actual route that I ended up taking, and that's about where I ended up, 4 miles from the coast of France, and totally going into hypothermia, and failed. And so I didn't really know what to do then. I thought, okay, good. You faced your fear and you failed. So now what do you do? And it was really great because I had read the book, Great by Choice, and in 2010 when I read that book, I immediately wanted Jim Collins to speak at an IT Nation. And so we started pursuing him. And we were lucky enough to get him for our 2012 IT Nation keynote speaker. And he was fantastic. And one of the great things about Jim Collins is he's a very approachable guy, very similar in a lot of ways to our speaker today. Kevin was very, very easy to approach. So was Jim. And so as we sat there in 2012 in the green room, getting ready to go on stage, we had about a half an hour, and I just got to sit with this guy, you know, this amazing business leader, and talk to him. And so we started talking, and he said, hey, Arnie, what's your thing? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, my thing's climbing. I like to climb cliffs. I like to do really scary things. I go, this is interesting. I need to know about this. Yeah, for my 50th birthday, I climbed El Capitan just to prove I could still do it. And El Capitan, if anyone's familiar with it, is a sheer cliff that goes up about 1,000 feet, and it goes straight up. It's in Yosemite National Park in California. And if you ever see it, you'll go, I don't know how anyone could possibly climb this. Well, he did. And he said, my thing's fear. I like to face fear and overcome fear. And I went, okay, this is very interesting. So I told him, I said, he goes, what's your thing? And I go, well, it was swimming the English Channel, but I didn't make it. And so he said, well, what are you going to do about that? And I said, I'm not really sure. And he said, you read my book, right? I said, yeah. He said, you know what to do then, right? I went, try again? And he said, yeah, 20-mile march it. Make a plan. Figure out what you're going to do. So I did. So after Jim and I talked, literally the next day, I wrote out a list of everything that I could have done better. I had just gotten back from my failure. It was September that I failed. It was November that I was sitting there with Jim Collins. He inspired me to try again. He says, 20-mile march it, make a list of the things that you did wrong. And this is my actual list that I did wrong. There's some pretty interesting things in there if you want to read it. But, you know, there's one myth of the English Channel where they say, gain weight. That'll insulate you. And I found that was completely false. I had gained 20 pounds trying to put on insulation, and I realized I was just hauling 20 extra pounds of lard across the English Channel that was doing me no good. So I made a list of these 16 things that I could do better, and I said, you know, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try. So I did. And what was interesting is this was super depressing because I was literally looking at the cars along the coast of France. I could smell food being cooked. It was coming out to shore. I could actually smell them, food from the restaurants. And it was very, very frustrating. So I thought, you know, maybe I'll get lucky this year and it won't happen like this. And by the way, the swim goes like this because the tides are so ferocious through the English Channel. English Channel is actually used to be a land bridge, and it's only about 120 feet deep. And so it drops off to the North Sea, thousands of feet. It drops off from here, thousands of feet to the Atlantic Ocean. And when the tide changes, you have an amazing flood of water that comes right over this bridge, land bridge, that's only 120 feet deep, and that water has to make it between these places. And so that's what creates this crazy phenomenon. You get dragged by the tide. So the next year, I actually did make it. And what was really scary was it was the same exact pattern, except this year, it was just different for me because I had my plan. I had so much confidence because I had the plan, because I did my bounce, because I knew got a plan. I'm going to work the plan. I'm going to just keep going. Didn't make the mistakes that I made before. And it was actually a breeze. It was not hard. It was really exciting to get in the water. You do all the training, and then it becomes a celebration. And as I went, and even though it was 21 miles, it actually the route that I took ended up having to be a 40-mile swim. That worked out good because I was raising money. I had people pledge money per mile. And they said, how far is it from Dover to France? And I said, 21 miles. And turns out it was 40 at least that I swam. So we collected over $150,000, and that was pretty amazing. But when you get out there, you're swimming in the middle of the busiest shipping lane in the world. And I found something along the way. It was like the crew that I had, and this is my wife, she never flinched. She was scared as hell, but she never showed it. She was the best team player I could have ever imagined. She kept smiling on board even though she was freezing. We got to the middle of the English Channel. It was all choppy, and she was getting bounced around. She would just stay there and pleasantly smile at me as I swam. And if any of you have ever been on one of these, it can be very boring. So I was amazed that she was able to do that. She was really the ideal team player. I had two other people that assisted in the boat as well. And these people were there 100% for me. And I relied on them so much. Every feeding, encouragement, and I couldn't have asked for a better team. And it started to dawn on me as I went through the swim. I started realizing there's so many parallels here. Even in the swim, I was thinking, this is just like business. You can have a vision, you can set a direction, but if you have a great team with you, you're not going to really get anywhere. And it was a really interesting swim because I started freaking out right about here when the sun was going down, because the water temperature changes then. And the day that I swam, it was 64 degrees. I had known that I can only handle about 60-degree temperature, and then I would go into hypothermia. So as the sun was going down, it was getting really scary. The really interesting thing was, as we neared France, the tide turned, and I was getting swept out. But they said, if you just keep swimming, Arnie, the tide will switch, and you'll end up making it. But it was pitch black out there, and it was a night where there was no moon. So you couldn't see anything. But I stuck to the plan. I never looked back at the cliffs of Dover, and I never looked forward and checked out where I was on Cap Grenay to France. I said, the mission here is just keep swimming until you touch France. There is nothing else to do. That's the plan. Nothing else matters. So, that was the year that I made it, and it really taught me a lot of things. What it taught me was that, a lot of people think that a straight line from Dover to France, and they think that's what success would look like. But for me, this is what it really looks like. It never is a straight line. You're always going to have challenges. You're always going to have to bounce. And so I went back to ConnectWise, and I said, you know what? I want to make all the people that I work with really great team players. And we started changing a few things. One of the things that I put a decree out, and I learned it from you, so thank you very much. As my visits over here, I realized I don't call people employees. We call them colleagues here, right? Colleagues, to me, was a cultural thing. I thought that makes a lot of sense. Employee says, you work for me. Colleague says, we work shoulder to shoulder. That was one of the first things that I changed. I got a hold of this book, The Ideal Team Player, and I highly recommend this book. I think this is the only book you should read when it comes to personnel. I think this is the book that gives you all the information on how you can create ideal team players inside of your company. I wanted people to be as good as the team that was escorting me across the English Channel, that we would work that closely together, that we would support each other that much. And this book actually embodies all of those concepts, and it's a pretty fantastic book. It gives you all the information that you need to hire, to fire, and it says some really important things. It says, based on your culture and based on your values, that is the only way that you can hire people. And it's also the way that you figure out who should stay in the company. And if people are violating this, that they have to leave. And that was a tough lesson to learn. But this book teaches it very clearly. In fact, Patrick Lencioni was our keynote. When we find a book that we like, that's our keynote speaker every year. So Patrick Lencioni was our keynote speaker this past year. And the concepts in the book are pretty simple. They say what you're looking for is people who are humble, hungry, and smart. And what they mean by humble is that they'll be ideal team players, that they will not put their desires and their needs and their ego above that of the team, that you'll work shoulder to shoulder. And so great examples of that are always found in sports. When you see great sports leaders, and I'm going to throw one out there because I'm an American football fan, I think Tom Brady is a great example of a great leader. He does not put himself first. He does not boast about himself. He does not take credit when they win. He gives credit to the team, and when they lose, he's the one that takes the blame. And he's always very consistent about that. So he's a great example of someone who is an ideal team player. He's always even keel, and he's always thanking his teammates and giving them the praise. So humble is an important part, especially in the technology space, because so many people learn the technology. They feel like, I know it, I'm right, I have all the answers. That's a problem, okay? It's an important thing that everybody works together and that everybody's ideas are heard. Hungry is a pretty simple concept. Do they have the desire? Do they truly have the passion and the desire to contribute to your company in a meaningful way? And if they don't, got to get rid of them. And then smart. And what they mean by smart is not IQ, but really EQ, or emotional quotient. How do they deal with people? Are they smart with people? Do they run over people? Do they have empathy for people? Are they smart? Do they interact with others in an appropriate fashion? Now, that might be a challenge, you think, in the technology world, but because you're thinking, well, technology people don't talk a lot. This is not about talking a lot, okay? This is about how they interact with people and how they are able to have effective communication with others. So the book is very good. Once I had those pieces together, I said it really now is the time to set a very focused vision out there for the company. And so that was interesting. We had all these companies that we had put together. We were bringing all our technology together, and we needed to create a really sharp central vision. So we started working on that. And the way that we worked on that was to crowdsource the strategy that the company would follow, get everyone involved, and then nail the vision and make it so big that you could never accomplish it. And so we do a lot of things to make that work. Whenever we do strategy, and we do strategy every year, we make sure that we communicate that to all colleagues. And vision is something that can change over time, especially in the technology space, because the technology space changes so quickly. But it would be good to have a vision that's so big that you could never achieve it. And then it would be very good if you would always say, based on our vision, what should in our current situation, what is our strategy for this year? And then widely communicate that throughout the company. And let people be innovative. And this was one of the innovative things that someone did. We actually put together our strategy, and they actually turned it into a one-page kind of cartoon. And I thought that was really brilliant. We put those out throughout the entire company. We have posters of our strategy throughout the entire company. We have an open public website with our strategy, and here it is, connectwise.com/our strategy. And we're not afraid if anyone wants to look at it, they're welcome to look at it. And so we put our strategy together, and it is a very inclusive crowdsourced strategy. And we're pretty excited about the fact that everyone is now aligned and buying into this strategy. And I think this is really, we've never been so ready for this. And I feel that way, that we've never been so ready for this. And it's really a nice thing as a CEO and a founder to be able to say that about your company, that you really feel ready for the mission that's ahead of you. And I really feel ready because I know that we have ideal team players. I know that we have the best people. And because we do, we know that we're attracting the best people as well. So we're pretty excited about that. We have a vision that's bigger than we could ever accomplish. And that is to help you drive technology forward to create a better world. That's a 100-year journey. The company will be working that vision for 100 years. And I think really good things will happen as a result. And then once you have your strategy, once you have your vision, once you're working on creating an environment where ideal team players can thrive, then you got to get them enthusiastic and excited. And this is the very best book for that, The Energy Bus by John Gordon. And this book covers all the basic principles of, and it says, the 10 rules to fuel your life, work, and team with positive energy. This is so important. And here's why. Because your people can work wherever they want. They're technology professionals. Not the guy that works the bench. He's kind of stuck. Okay? The guy that does the break fix on the bench. He may be stuck. Okay? But the people that are really learning security, in fact, the ICO is a great example. The ICO is about 200 people here in the UK, right? And they just recently lost about 40 of their best people. You know why? They weren't paying them enough and they don't have the right energy level going on there. And so they are doing their own reboot now, where they've said we've got to raise the salaries, we've got to start creating more positive energy inside of our organization. And so your people will not leave for more money if they feel like this is their home, if this is their family, if they're being taken care of here, if they're excited about what they're doing. And how can they get excited about putting money in your pocket? They're not going to get excited about that. They're going to get excited about the vision. They're going to get excited about the mission. And then you as leaders have to always generate that energy inside of the company. So the last thing I did is I said, all right, everything else is in place. Now I'm going to set these ideal team players free. I'm going to inspire them to innovate. They're the ones that are touching clients, supporting partners, doing the amazing programming, and coming up with great concepts. So I'm just going to set innovation free, and I'm going to inspire everyone to do it because I know I can. Because they have to stick to the vision, they have to stick to the strategy, and they're free to do whatever makes sense inside of that, including a black tie event last night, which some things work well.
Fail fast.
Fail fast. So the last thing, and I'm going to take questions after this, is I've also learned that if you want ideal team players and if you inspire them and they're creating energy and they are doing innovative things, say thank you. And you cannot say thank you enough. I've learned, I've never had anyone tell me, stop telling me thank you. Have you ever had anyone tell you, stop telling me thank you? It doesn't happen, right? It just, you can't say it enough. And people appreciate it so much. You know, your people are working very hard for you. You know, let's face it. And whether you think they are or aren't, they are. And if you think they're doing their best or not, they're doing their best, okay? And if they're not doing their best, it's because maybe you haven't inspired them. Maybe you haven't created the energy. Maybe you haven't been clear on your vision. But the thing that's going to make or break you isn't the technology solutions that you pick, because they'll all work, okay? It's the people, and it's the services, as we talked about. You've got to get those technology teams inspired and innovative and set them free, okay? They'll take any solution and make it work, okay, outside of ConnectWise. Even if you didn't want to be on the ConnectWise platform. If they were inspired enough, they could make it work, right? So the bottom line is, have a vision, create the energy, crowdsource your strategy, and create a lot of enthusiasm, and allow innovation to happen. And Corey just said one of our tenets in our company, which is to fail fast. And we encourage that. We encourage people to fail fast. And it's okay to make mistakes. Thomas Edison tried 1,000 plus different elements for the light bulb before he found that carbon was the right element to use. Number 2 was bamboo. But the one that worked and the one that was long-lasting was a carbon filament. He had to try 1,000 different experiments to figure out which one was right. And he never got upset about it. He said, that's just one less thing to try. So I'm one thing closer to finding the answer. And that's a really good attitude. It kind of exemplifies the concept of failing fast. You're going to find out what doesn't work, and that's valuable too. And if you allow your people to be innovative and you allow them to have failures, and I'm not talking about ruin the company failures. I'm talking about, small failures, right? In all different areas, they're going to innovate. They're going to be self-guided missiles. They're going to figure it out. And when they do figure it out, say thank you. So that's what I have to say, and I would like to take questions.
Anything on a daily basis that sort of keeps that going, everything that you're doing, you personally?
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do on a daily basis to carry on your good work?
I make sure this stays in place. As the leader of the company, it's your job. You own the culture. You have to exemplify the culture, and you have to promote the culture. And all of those things that we just went through are just elements of a culture. But it's also a really good idea to document that culture. So what do? I encourage people to be innovative, right? And first of all, I'm a CPA and an MBA, and I know the numbers, right? I'm always looking at the numbers, okay? So I know, and if I'm not, Jason is, but I know the numbers, and it's like when you start seeing the numbers going in the right direction, you want to dig in and find out why. When you see the numbers going in the wrong direction, you want to dig in and find out why, okay? So you have to do those things, right? You do have to do those things if you're the leader. But at the same time, your main mission is to preserve the culture, enhance the culture, and inspire. And then probably the biggest job is always preach the vision. Always. People should get so sick and tired of you saying it that they can repeat it. And when they can repeat it, maybe you're getting close to the end of that job, okay? But it's a never-ending thing. It's a never-ending thing. It's a never-ending thing. And quite honestly, if you do these things, your job is a lot easier because you're not actually the doer. You're the inspirer, right? You're the visionary, So what do? I make sure that the ConnectWise, that our technology is advanced. I make sure that if our technology is getting old, that we throw it out and start over like we're doing with our mobile app right now, as an example, and have the courage to say, we got to start over, So those are the things that I do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get hold of a copy of the reading list? Is it written somewhere?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, you can have a copy of this presentation if you'd like it. I've got a lot of books, though. But these are the main ones. So, yeah, I'll get you a copy of that. For sure. Ta-da! Awkward silence.
Is your vision to keep ConnectWise privately held?
Well, the vision says we want to do as much as, the answer is that's a result of pursuing the vision, right? I think we're a very unique company because we are privately held. We're a very unique company because we are, we have cash in the bank. We have no debt. We have no private equity. We don't have anyone telling us what to do. So yes, for the foreseeable future, we would be a private company. The only way we would not be a private company is if we see a way to accelerate our vision to get to it quicker. But so far, that has not appeared. And we're on kind of a unique mission and vision on our own. So I don't have to answer to private equity. I don't have to answer to anyone, right? And people that know me well enough know that I don't really care about making money. If it happens as a result, that's great. But we're not trying to engineer the highest money to the bottom line. In fact, this year, we've got a $6.5 million fund that we put together because we're cash flow positive that we are giving out to our colleagues by letting them redeem some of their 17% ownership in the company. So there's going to be $6.5 million handed out to ConnectWise colleagues worldwide that want to cash in their stock. It's a way that this is, I've always said this is how we're going to help them fulfill their dreams in life. And we have people who are now buying homes for the first time, or being able to send their moms, their elderly parents to, the place that they want them to be at, the nursing home they want them to be at, or maybe home care. Or building an extension on their house. I've heard all kinds of really interesting things. Or sons and daughters that maybe qualified for an amazing university, but they couldn't afford it, but now they can. So these are making dreams come true. So it's another really great way that we're able to give back to our colleagues, to our ideal team players. But the funny thing is so now I have all the founders knocking on the door going, what about us? Where's our money? It's like, you get nothing and like it. Your founders, we're reinvesting all of our money into the company, and we always have. The joke with my wife is, every year I come home, and we're a subchapter S corporation. What that means is our profits pass through to us. And I think I still have about 50% ownership in ConnectWise. And so I get this huge tax bill every year, right? And she goes, wow, ConnectWise did good this year. And where's the money? And I say, it's in our ideal team players, it's in the company, it's in that furniture, it's in that conference room table, it's in this rent. We put it all back into the company because we want to see it grow. And when you grow a company and you're able to grow a company, all good things are able to happen because you're able to advance your ideal team players. We've got a lot of really bright people. Here in London, we're very fortunate. We're bringing in the brightest people. They want to work for ConnectWise. They want to work in high tech. And they love working down in the financial district as well. So we've done all the things right here. We've got the right culture. We're attracting the very best people here in London, and we're really excited about that. We're doing the same thing in the Tampa Bay area. And they know that the company is growing, so there's just all kinds of opportunity. All kinds of opportunity.
Do you have a dream?
What's that?
Do you have a dream?
Do I have a dream?
Yes.
Sure, I have a dream.
New dream?
You want to know the dream? Yeah, I have a dream. It's pretty simple. My belief is that technology is going to solve the world's problems if we get it right. And my dream is to see technology have the opportunity to do that without being inhibited. I think about technology and its ability to advance so much faster than cultural acceptance or national regulations, and it always gets slowed down by that. And I guess probably that's the right thing, take it slow and make sure you get it right. But it is a little frustrating that I believe that we could be making so much more progress. And I think you see people frustrated with that, like Elon Musk. He's very frustrated with that. He looked at NASA and he said, who's doing anything in outer space anymore? No one was doing anything. He got frustrated with that. And he goes, well, I guess I'll do it. And I think that's just a great example of someone who understands that, yeah, if you want to look at something fresh and new and use modern technology, you can do just about anything. And I believe that he will get us to Mars. I believe that he will. I also believe that he will completely, and he already has completely revolutionized transportation and make it so we have fewer cars on the road, okay, and cleaner highways and cleaner air. So I think you see people like Elon Musk who understand what technology can do, and he's just saying, I'm just going to go do it, okay? I feel the same way about the world, I think, that he does, that technology really holds the greatest hope for a better future. And so I'm doing it from a different angle, though. I'm doing it through you. So this is a pretty cool virtuous cycle that we have at ConnectWise because we believe in you. We think that you are the way that we were going to get there. And you may go, that's not my vision, Arnie. It's like, it doesn't have to be your vision. Because what you're doing is you're laying the infrastructure for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, okay? Unless technology is spread far, wide, and deep in the world, we're not going to make any progress. That's what you're doing, okay? And now you're being asked to secure it. And until we can secure it, we don't get to move forward. So you may think you don't have anything to do with it, but this is a very evolutionary thing. You know, I remember a day in 1981 when I walked into Eiler Insurance Company, and they were our first big client in the Tampa Bay area, and we were putting in a network there. And they had no technology, and they had a 5-story building, and 3 floors of that building were filled with paper, right? Filing cabinets. And maybe some of you are old enough to remember those days when it was all paper, okay? There's no paper anymore. And I looked at that and I said, we can digitize all of this. We could do it tomorrow. Well, it's taken a very long time for that to happen. But if you think about the world now, everything is digital. Everything is online. And now not only is everything digital, but it's now being centralized into cloud. Where now, because it's centralized, we can do machine learning on big data sets. We got big data because we've aggregated it. Because we've digitized it, we've aggregated it. Now we can do machine learning. We can create artificial intelligence. We can extract knowledge from all of this. Not if it's not secure, though, right? So it's an evolutionary thing, you know. Digitize, centralize, secure, extract knowledge. That's how we're going to solve the world's problems. You're actually doing it. Each and every one of you is actually doing that in your own way. So we think, that's why we always say, we think that you are really the superheroes of the world. So what's my dream? My dream is that you run your business as best as you can, create amazing companies where people want to work, where they're inspired, and you get more technology embedded that much quicker so we can get to the final place quicker. And I know you need to make money along the way, and we're all about trying to help you do that in any way that we can. I mean, we just made an acquisition of HCG. We spent a lot of money, okay? No private equity firm would have financially agreed to do that because it's a break-even company. They don't make any money, but they provide so many amazing services. So we look at ourselves almost like a cooperative, you know. We're all in this together. So what services do you need that we need to invest in? You're giving us your money. We're not putting it in our pocket. I did buy this tie, so I took some. But we're taking your money and we're reinvesting that, okay? Founders aren't getting it. Colleagues are, because I need them to fuel your success. So yeah, I got to give them money, right? But we're not taking any. We're putting it right back in. We're saying what services, what features, what functions, what applications, what connections, what do we need to do to get rid of the friction in this space, connect the ecosystem, and get this thing moving at a higher velocity. That's our mission. We're not going to Mars, right? No one's going to notice what we do. But our team knows what we're doing, and we're excited about it. And if you know what we're doing, I would think that you would be excited about it too, because I don't know of any other company that has that kind of vision for you. And I'm not trying to sell you, but I am preaching, and I am evangelizing. And those that understand and hear will come, and great things will happen. And that's my dream, that people understand this message, that people get it, that people commit to it, and that we understand that maybe your vision is the same. And maybe I've inspired you or you to think maybe a little bit differently about your business. You can make those heroic statements. You're actually doing it. One little step at a time. Can't happen overnight. 20-mile marches, right?
What, according to you, are the top 3 things which inspire people irrespective of culture?
Top 3 things to inspire people? Let them be.
The culture or wherever they are.
What are the top 3 things? The freedom to innovate, and that only comes with the freedom to fail. So to give freedoms. You're free to fail, you're free to innovate, and you're free to accelerate. I expect everyone, if I give you the ability to fail, if I give you the ability to innovate, then I expect acceleration as a result of that. And if I don't see it, maybe you're not the right person for the company, right? Those are the 3 things that I inspire people with: is fail, innovate, move fast. Let's see how quick we can accelerate this whole mission, this whole vision. And if that doesn't inspire them, then ConnectWise just isn't the right place for them.
In a business, do you think one should stay focused or diversified?
I think you should stay focused. I think focus is absolutely the most important thing. That's one of the things that Collins really taught me is, you know, going to the South Pole. Where are you going? Where are you going? Right? You got to ask yourself, like, where am I going? Where's my company going? Where am I steering it? Because a lot of people don't know. They're saying, I just want to go forward and I want to make enough money. And I get it. I was there for many years, right? I mean, I'm you. I mean, we didn't start as a software company. We started as a service company, putting in local area networks in the Tampa Bay area. We still have that company. It's still very profitable. And we use it to really deeply understand our industry, right? Because we have a company right inside of our company that does this, right? Not inside of it, it's a separate company. But we've got the ability to look and understand and listen to them in real time. And so if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. But when we were creating our company, I mean, my first goal was I need to make enough money so that I can be self-employed. That's your first goal, right? And that's your first goal because you have to get there. And then the next goal is I need to make enough money to support my family, right? And then I need to make enough money to give my family and my children a better future than otherwise, right? But if those are your goals, and those often are the goals when you're small, those aren't goals. They're goals, but they're not vision. That's not a vision, okay? You know, that's not going to inspire your people. And I hear it all the time. I hear it from companies all the time. It's like, I just have to make enough money. I just have to make enough money. And I think that by focusing on that as your goal, I think that you're not able to inspire your people. And so therefore, you're really stunting the growth and innovation of your company, and certainly not creating the energy level that you need. You do need to create a vision for your company, you know. And it's not be the best at this or be the best at that. It's like, why would anyone care that your business exists? And by the way, that's the book to read, you know, Start With Why by Simon Sinek, who was our keynote speaker, and I want to tell you, 2009. Read that book and then figure out what your why is. What's the why of your business, right? Answer that question for yourself. Then you'll know where you're going. And that's what you preach, and that's what you evangelize, and that's what you get people enthusiastic about and create energy around it. Good question. Lake District, your turn.
I was just about to say, I like Simon Sinek. I've listened to a lot of his things. He's,
Yeah.
yeah, impressive.
Yeah. Well, I have so fortunate because, you know, I've Jim Collins, Simon Sinek, Steve Wozniak, Patrick Lencioni, all these famous authors. I always get like about 30 to 60 minutes alone with them. And that's really like the highlight of my year because I get to ask them, you know, I've read their books once or twice or 3 or 4 of their books over and over again, and I'm able to ask the questions that I'm very curious to find out. So it's one of the...
This isn't a question, I'll give you a comment that I
Okay.
made last day. Talking to one of your guys over the last couple of days, saying that, so how far away are you coming to work? An hour and 45 each way. I went, an hour and 45? No, wow, you really must like ConnectWise. You think back where we are, South Lake District, 2 hours 10. And he lives nearly where we live. So
I know.
he's effectively...
I know who it is. He lives in Milton Keynes, I think, yeah.
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 So when you look at the journey, you think, wow, yeah, that's some sort of commitment.
Yeah.
And that makes you think, you go away and think,
Why is he doing that? Why not take a
Yeah,
job
yeah.
closer in? Yeah. Well, if he could find something that was the same, he would take it, right? I mean, but that's, you know, that's what I'm talking about. If you have the vision, if you are infectious with it, and if you've got people energized around it, you know, what's great about that is it becomes a lot more like university. You know, you're all learning together. You're all growing together. You're all on a mission, you know, and there's that kind of camaraderie. And it's just not easy to find, right? It's not easy to find in the working world, you know, that kind of camaraderie. And I think that's the thing that if you really look at the ConnectWise colleagues, I think that's the thing that you'll realize. There's an amazing camaraderie there. What causes that? If you scratch underneath the surface, it's all of this. That's what causes it all. So any other questions? Yeah, I want the newest colleague of ConnectWise must ask a question.
Do you have any more challenges that you set yourself? So you did the big swim.
Oh, the big swim. I've always got different ones. Yeah, the next one I want to swim from Europe to Africa. I want to say that I swam from one continent to another. It's only 10 miles. It's across the Strait of Gibraltar. But I'm going to be 60 in a couple months, so I'm going to think that's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
What sort of scope is there going to be to embed machine learning to manage automation?
It's already being done. It's already being done. So our latest project is with Cisco, where we're bringing, and we just announced Unite, with the Cisco products. Well, we've taken another grouping of Cisco security products, and we've brought them all together in one single panel, right? One single pane of glass. And it's really, designed to say, here's a kit that you can use to really get yourself into the security space. We've made it a lot simpler. And so what we've done with that is we've aggregated information from, let's say, virus protection, malware, firewall, and several other entry points of security where we're aggregating the data, and now we're looking at it and saying, what correlations do we see? And let's generate tickets when we say, oh, these 3 things, oh, that could be an early detection system to say you could be having a security problem here. So we're already doing it. We have plans to do more, yeah, lots more. And that's the next big thing. That's the big thing right now in technology is machine learning, quite honestly, artificial intelligence as well. And people are scared of it, but it's going to be the thing that really creates so much value and solves a lot of problems. We do have to get it right. We can't let it get out of control. We can't turn into the Terminator and Skynet. We've got to make sure it's more like the Jetsons, where it's at our service. And I'm sure that not worried about nation states making regulations on that. There'll be plenty. So you think GDPR is a regulation? Wait till they come up with the artificial intelligence regulations, AIR. They'll be coming not too long from now. Any other questions before we finish? No? Well, I want to thank you for coming to IT Nation Europe 2018. We're very excited to have you, and we thank you for staying this late in the game. And the great thing is you got some great weather this weekend to enjoy. So thank you all very much. Appreciate it.